Good evening. My name is Giacomo Marini. I have the pleasure to introduce these extraordinary speakers tonight to discuss some important aspects of the American dream. We are very fortunate to have them with us tonight. Our first topic is immigration. This is a community of immigrants and descendants of immigrants. Most people here would probably agree that a healthy amount of immigration is an engine of economic development, creativity, and innovation. However, right now, a significant portion of U.S. citizens see immigration as a threat to the economy, to national security, and to public safety. Secretary Napolitano, what is your view? Shall we be more open to immigration, or shall we further restrict immigration? Are there any changes needed in laws or regulations or implementations of them?
So I got the easy question. In a way, I would answer that question both. We should be supporting greater levels of immigration because the American economy demands it. The American economy needs it. The American economy has been built with the labor and experiences and expertise of immigrants, particularly those who came before us who are here in this room from Italy. The American economy simply will not meet its potential and grow without increasing the number of visas and making it easier for people to come into this country and to live legally. That's okay. On the other hand, as a former border state governor and before then prosecutor and then Secretary of Homeland Security, I have to say that the southern border of the United States right now is not satisfactory. People need to feel that there is order to our immigration, that we know who is coming into the country, where they're going, who they're going to be staying with. We cannot tolerate or sustain a process by which sometimes 10,000 people a day are found crossing illegally between our ports of entry into the United States. We know why. They're fleeing sometimes horrible conditions. They have traveled and made a very, very dangerous journey to get to our southern border. So many of them now are families with children, which is a difference in our immigration population that was crossing the southern border than even 10 or 12 years ago. Nonetheless, we need greater order. There are ways to do it and ways not to do it. And what I fear and what I think we need to be thinking about is the right way to have order at the border while still supporting legal migration to the United States.
John, you established the San Mateo County Immigrant Relief Fund during the pandemic. What shall we do to improve how we accept immigrants, integrate them into U.S. society, and ensure that they are and remain a positive contribution to the development of our nation?
Well, let me first say that I'm very sensitive to the immigrant problem. You know, both my father and mother immigrated from Italy. My dad got his U.S. citizenship by volunteering in the Army in the First World War. He was wounded, he became a cook in the Army. The officer said, you know, John, you're a pretty good cook, I'd open a restaurant. So he started in San Francisco many years ago, way back during the Prohibition days. My only point is, you need to come into this country legally. We've had 8 million people, 8 million illegal crossings in the southern border in the last few years. That's just not acceptable. And in spite of the fact that these folks become part of the fabric of our community, we all know our gardeners, the people working in this restaurant, the people caring for our parents, the people working as custodians, as gardeners. These are all folks that we need for our community to thrive. But they need to come in legally, they need to have work permits, etc. But unfortunately, Congress has been in a stalemate for what, 10 or 15 years. Nobody can figure out how to fix the problem, or wants to. But anyway, to get back to your question, Giacomo, I was a little bit sympathetic a few years back when we had this pandemic, and so many of the folks that low-income people that were in the service industries, worked in the restaurants, etc., lost their jobs. And prior to that, they all had what you call IT numbers, and they were paying into the Social Security system. Their employers were taking out taxes from their wages, but when the pandemic hit and they lost their job, guess what? They were not eligible for any unemployment insurance. And I just didn't think that was fair. So I decided, let's start a San Mateo County, which is where I live, undocumented immigrant relief fund. I seeded it with $5 million. I made 2 trips to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, appealed to them. I said, come on guys, at least match me. You've got plenty of money sitting in your coffers. I got $2 million the first round, another $3 million the next round. So I got $5 million out of the county. Then I went to other philanthropic friends that I know, and we raised the fund up to $16 million. This is about 2 years ago. And we gave out $1,000 checks to undocumented immigrants that had a real need, whether they had to make a car payment, whether they had to help pay on their rent, no questions asked. This was supervised by the Mission Asset Fund in San Francisco that made sure that all these applications were legit. And in addition, we worked with the Good Samaritan House in San Mateo that provided ongoing support for these people. And I'm pleased to say we gave out 16,000 $1,000 checks. And these folks have been able to survive as a result of that.
Sergio, you served for Italy in Hungary and in Albania, and now you are in San Francisco. What have you seen in the Italian immigrant community here different from other places where you have been? And what are the good things and the not so good things that you have observed regarding immigration?
Well, first of all, I would say qualification is the key element which distinguishes the Italian and Italian American community of San Francisco from those who I've been connected with in the past. Highly qualified people, both in the scientific sector, academia, and in companies and the economic environments. And the difference is tangible. You can touch it, you can feel it as soon as you arrive and as you get to San Francisco and you talk to the Italian community representatives. I'm honored to be here just because it's a great opportunity for me to do something to bridge this great community with Italy. Talking about immigration, if you haven't seen it, and I'm pretty sure you haven't because it's recent in the cinema and on the theaters, go and see Io Capitano, last Matteo Garrone's movie, is in the process for Hollywood and the Oscars. It's a great movie about the mechanisms and how it goes to immigrate from Africa to Italy to Europe in general. It's a really touching movie. I think Matteo Garrone has done one of his greatest hits with this film. I hope we get out of the Oscars, but it gives you a sense of what happens to people who are less lucky than us. And it could be any of us instead of them. And while you watch the movie, you feel it, that you could be one of those guys, young boys, immigrating from Central Africa, somewhere in the Sahara, to find a better life in Europe. Same thing happens on the border with the United States from the south. So there are a lot of similarities of what Italy faces. As to talking about challenges in immigration, we're facing the Mediterranean countries. Africa is still in need of a better life, African people. And that's why Italy has been struggling a lot with this huge challenge in the last years, because the European Union is a great family. We're all very happy of being part of it. It's a great construction. We more and more feel we belong to the family. Nevertheless, in every family it's difficult to make up common strategies, share values totally. And that's why immigration is one of the hot spots of the discussion running on in Italy, in Italy and Europe. Another thing I can tell you, having been posted to Albania, you remember 90s immigrants from Albania flowing all the way to Italy. There were huge numbers of Albanians going to Italy. And it was really, really good for me to hear Albanians speaking when I was Consul General in Vlorë, which is the southern part of Albania. I remember a lot of Albanians saying to me, Consul General, thank you for what Italy did to me or to my family, beginning of the 90s. The way Italy accepted the immigrants from Albania, they started for obvious geographical reasons, up the way, to northern part of Italy. I was amazed by learning stories of how they were treated by Italians, they were welcomed by families, and Italian government did pretty much to welcome them. So we have always, as you said, Janet, very careful to legally regulate the immigration, because otherwise it's just a loser-loser mechanism, both for the immigrants and for the receiving population. But on the other side, it's a great resource for making the country grow bigger and healthier and wealthier. Thank you.
Let's now talk about education and the role of philanthropy in education. I'll start with John. John, I know you are passionate about education for immigrants as a tool for integration and development. What is your view on the status of the U.S. California education system, and how do you see the role of philanthropy versus the use of taxpayer money for education?
Well, it's unfortunate that the way schools get funded depends on where you live. For example, if you happen to live in the east side of San Jose and you pay property taxes, about $13,000 or $14,000 a student shows up in the local district offices. If you live on the west side of San Jose, it's $23,000 a student. If you live in Palo Alto, it's $30,000 a student. So guess what a difference that makes in the quality of the education. We need to do something to level that playing field so all the districts throughout California get the same per day payment. And so far that hasn't happened. And we've done a lot on the advocacy side. Our foundation is one of the leaders in California in trying to change the system, but it really is difficult to try to change the ship once it's moved. But we've always believed that education is the surest way out of poverty, a good education. So the consequence, our foundation is focused on education starting in preschool all the way through college. And I'll give you some examples. About 2009, we looked at the landscape and decided that we needed to do something about low-income students, mostly first-generation students, coming from families that in California, their home language was Spanish. I mean, it's close to 50% of the kids now entering our California school system are from families where they speak Spanish at home. So we decided as a foundation we would try to change that metric, and we coordinated with a PhD, famous lady from the educational field, Dr. Larry Olson, and came up with a program called SEAL. It's for Sobrato Early Academic Language. It's a dual language program starting in the 3rd grade. The whole idea with the dual language is to make these kids academically literate by the 3rd grade so they can understand the questions. They can all speak English, but they don't have the capacity for the academic side. So we started in 3 schools, one in Redwood City, 2 in San Jose, back in 2009. We had about 1,500 students in 3 schools. And we've grown it over that last 15, 20 years. And now I'm pleased to say we're in 57 schools. We have over 100,000 students in the SEAL program. In Los Angeles, Fresno, Marin County. We're trying to go statewide with it. We kind of spun out that organization, a part of our foundation. It's a separate foundation now. The idea there was so we could raise funds from government, from other philanthropic groups, not necessarily from it's not going to be all Sobrato money. And we've gotten some money out of the state of California, not quite enough. but we're hopeful that someday it will be adopted statewide, because the university down in Southern California, the Jesuit school, Loyola Marymount and Notre Dame back in Indiana are doing studies, and they've proven that our SEAL program works. It really does. And so we just need to get more money so we can go statewide. That's on the public school side. On the charter school side, about 20 years ago, I got involved with the vice chair of a group of 3 charter schools on the east side of San Jose, Latino College Preparatory Academy, Roberto Cruz Academy, and then Louis Valdez Academy. We have about 1,000 students in the public school system, and it's working. The other thing that we've done is I started a school called Cristo Rey, San Jose Jesuit High School, about 10 years ago. And that school, I'm proud to say now, graduates about 120 kids a year. We have 400 kids enrolled there. 99% go on to college. And the way it works is they go to school 4 days a week, and 1 day a week they work in industry. It's a long day, but industry pays us like $40,000 a team of kids. We have a freshman, junior, salary, four kids a year, and that pays about 2/3 of the cost of operating the school. It's a national model. They have 34 schools across the country. When I started the one in San Jose, we had like 22 schools, and it's really been a remarkable school. And what we've also done is we established a scholarship fund, tithing $27 million of endowment into Santa Clara University and University of San Francisco, where our scholarship funds pays the gap, because these first generation kids get Pell dollars, they get other government funds, but there's a gap of about $10,000 to $12,000 in scholarship funds, which our endowment covers. That's on the high school side. I think that covers it.
Thank you, John. Sergio, in Italy, all education is free, including higher education in the public system. And interesting enough, higher education appears to be quite competitive, as it demonstrated by the students with advanced degrees coming to the US from Italy. Can you explain us how does Italy do it, and what is your view on the US system?
Well, being diplomat is always difficult to give answers about the country, the host country, but being a positive sister, I can tell you something. It's easy to speak about public services in Italy, not only education, but also health system. And actually, to answer your question truly and honestly, by coming to the United States, well, California is probably a different place and situation, so it's rather more similar to what we find in European Union and Italy than other states of the United States to some extent. But still, when I came here, I thought, God, I'm lucky to be European and to be Italian, because the state in our case takes care about the health and education, at least of the less advantaged, economically advantaged people, which is a great thing, I think. And it's something probably still California is working on and is doing pretty well in comparison with other states, as I said. Well, by enlarging our debt, public debt, basically, which is Keynes' doctrine, probably, to some extent. But also, let me say, we are starting having private funds flooding into education system. We have private education. It's not highly represented in Italy, but still it's a growing part of it. And as you said, we have the proof that the education system, the Italian education system, works perfectly by seeing how many people who have been educated and grew in the Italian school, high schools and academia had success abroad, like here in San Francisco. Unfortunately, Italy faces another problem, which is keeping these people in our country. And that's about, lack of an economic environment, an attitude, a positive, a truly positive attitude towards entrepreneurs and companies like the one you can find here. And that's, I can tell you, it's clear. We're working on that as government, but it takes a while. So, yeah.
Thank you. Secretary Napolitano, UC Davis, where I served on the foundation board, has done, I believe, an excellent job at expanding the student population at the same time increasing quality and rankings. In my conversation with the university leadership, I sensed the desire to start controlling growth of the student population to preserve and increase quality. Being a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, I believe that growth is good and the contradiction between quality and quantity can be potentially a false problem. Do you have any position on that? And also, California state funding is now a very small percentage of the UC system budget. What are your thoughts on how to preserve affordability for the California youth? Is philanthropy the answer to that?
Yeah. Okay, so the University of California is the best public research university system in the world. That's it. It is a true asset for California, and it's an asset in many ways. 40% of the undergraduates are the first in their families to go to college, and they graduate. If you come from a California family that makes less than $80,000 a year, you pay no tuition at the University of California. That's about half of the undergraduate student body. So it is both a top research university, but also a real engine of mobility for people. And I always feared as president of the university that we weren't communicating that well enough, that we were getting kind of perceived as being elitist, and we had too many out-of-state or international students, when in fact the record showed just the opposite. In terms of increasing the size of the student body of University of California, what we have done is increase the percentage of in-state residential students. And at Berkeley and UCLA and San Diego, the three schools that draw the most from other states of the United States and internationally, they have, and the legislature in a way forced this, but it was a fair compromise. They have put a cap on the number of out-of-state and international students that can attend. I think the current cap is about 18%. And so now you see record numbers of California undergraduates. Now you can't just add students willy-nilly. You need buildings, and you need professors. You need a faculty. Somebody has to be there to teach them something. And it's a research university, and you have to support the research enterprise, which contributes a lot to California. There are whole swaths of the California economy that come out of the University of California and research done there. There are some amazing stats, but I'll just give you one. The National Institute of Health, which is the major federal funding source for health research in this country, 10% of its research dollar comes to the University of California. Think about that. So new cures and therapies and diagnostic tools and whatever that come out of just that one source of grant monies to the University of California. Not to mention the research on things like AI and data science and computers and cybersecurity and research in the social sciences and research in public policy and research in all kinds of ways that benefit the people of California and benefit the nation and indeed the world. I think we should be proud of this public university that we have. In terms of the debate between quality versus quantity, I say, you know what? I think the University of California has got about the right balance right now. And what we really need is for Sacramento to put up more of its fair share.
Thank you. Let's turn to housing. The role of housing in our society is pervasive and complex, from acquiring a house in fulfillment of the American dream to the affordability issues and to the homeless population issues. Let me start with Sergio. You had to find a house when you arrived in San Francisco. Can you briefly describe your experience and compare it with Italy and other places in the world?
Right. The secret is that my husband is an architect, so it was easy. No, yeah, it's difficult to compare, let me tell you. So I've been in Hungary, but it was, not post-communist, but it was 15 years after, but still, it was very easy. Not to mention Albania, they would be still waiting for someone to get a house there. And then, San Francisco is challenging. If you So if you talk about the pricing, it's crazy for every European citizen, I would say, and also for Americans, I suppose. It's unbelievable because I can understand that the standard economy for households and so on is higher than average in Europe, but still I can imagine how difficult, how tough it is for a family, American family of average, to afford the house, either by renting it or not even mentioning buying a house in San Francisco, which leads to a problem of populating and leaving the city. So how to keep a city alive, like San Francisco, beautiful city like San Francisco is, if prices go on too much. We have the same in Italy. For example, northern part of Italy, like Milan, is much more expensive than southern part of Italy. And I think there should be a sort of control by local authorities on the cap of the pricing of the rents. If you're willing to keep on making your city alive, otherwise everyone will move away, and this will lead to a desert city, which we don't want. So my job was tough. I had an architect. Actually, the other thing which I was surprised about is the quality and the sustainability of the houses, which is surprisingly higher in Europe and in Italy than in the average houses we've been looking at. Seeing in San Francisco, talking about, for example, windows, sustainability with environment and climate, and the way they save energy. The quality of the building, of the construction is much higher in Italy and Europe than here, which surprised me. I don't know what the reasons are for the techniques of construction and the sustainability of the buildings, but that was another thing which surprised me a lot. Yeah, it's on wood. We are not on wood in Italy and Europe, which make probably things energy saving higher.
But Madam Secretary, you were the governor of Arizona, one of the states with the fastest population and housing. How do you compare the Arizona situation with the California situation, and what would you recommend in terms of legislation and in terms of economic incentives and infrastructure development to deal with the housing challenges that we have?
So Arizona is a very different state than California, but it was, and during the early aughts when I was governor, 2003, 2009, it was the fastest growing state in the country. And Maricopa County, which is where Phoenix is, was one of the top 2 fastest growing counties in the United States. And we were building like crazy. One of the differences between Arizona and here, especially in the Bay Area, is that the permitting and process was much simpler in Arizona, and things could be built very quickly. Nonetheless, housing is supply and demand, and if you have rapid population growth, you need rapid housing construction. Once you get behind, as California has, and I think Arizona has to some degree, then the price really elevates, and that's a problem. I think from a housing policy perspective, if I were running California, I would do everything I could to simplify the permitting problems that plague the construction of housing and increase the cost of housing. I would specifically focus on keeping people who are in housing, because there are too many of the unhoused population that are there because they lost their job, they had a financial reversal, or their rent went up and they couldn't afford it, and all of a sudden their families are on the street, and then it's way more expensive for everyone to get them into a safe environment. So simplifying the process to increase supply and focusing on people who are already in housing to keep them in housing, I think would be my top 2 priorities.
Thank you. John, very few people in the U.S. know about real estate as much as you, I suppose, with the role of the Sobrato Organization, including in housing, and as well as the work of your philanthropies in affordable housing and reducing the homeless population. What is your view of where we are and what shall we do, especially in the homeless space?
Well, first, let me talk about the difference in the geography between Arizona and California. In Phoenix, you just push out the urban boundary and you can build more housing. Here we have the bay, which nobody wants to fill. We're surrounded by the mountains. So the only way we can increase housing is by going denser. And anytime you go into a council meeting to propose a housing project, whether it's below market rate, whether it's an affordable rate, all the NIMBYs come out. You know, we don't want any more traffic in our neighborhood. We don't want any more kids in our schools. And on, and they throw up all these load blocks, you know, they're called NIMBYs. And unfortunately, they have the selfish attitude that if we turn down additional housing in our neighborhood, whether it's affordable, whether it's market rate, guess what? Our property values will go up. That is the bottom line. Now, we've talked about all the problems with entitlement, and we've had some recent legislation come through where the idea was to try to streamline some of the entitlement processes, where any neighbor could file a lawsuit to block a project would take 2 or 3 years to resolve, and by then the developer would lose interest or the prices would go out of proportion. But in order for that to pass, I think it was SB 35, you had to hire union labor. That was part of the package to get it through the legislation. And when you have union labor building housing, it costs 15 to 20% more. I mean, a lot of these non-union contractors of building housing provide living wages, but they don't have all the overhead burden that goes with labor unions, you know, apprenticeships, training, all the administrative expenses. So that is somewhat of a problem with the entitlement problem, is the labor unions. So let me talk a little bit about homelessness, because that was one of your questions. Our foundation has started a new program called our Housing Security Initiative, where we're buying what we call naturally occurring affordable housing, NOVA. And the idea there is we can buy a project in the 300,000 to 400,000 unit range, where today an affordable housing builder is lucky to be able to build a project for $1 million a unit. $1 million a unit for so-called affordable housing. It's crazy. So we decided to attack it on the preservation side, and we've bought 2 pilot projects, one in Santa Clara with 60 or 70 units, one in Hayward, another 50 or 60 units. It took us 14 months to get approval for what we call a welfare exemption, whereby if we agree in exchange for giving property taxes by the local tax assessor, we have to agree to make the projects affordable for 15 or 20 years. We can't raise the rents beyond 80% of the AMI income. And it took us 14 minutes to get that approved. We just last week got approved by the state of California and also by the city of Santa Clara. So we're going to move forward. Our intention by our foundation is to buy 3,000 or 4,000 of these units for the working class, and we'll see how it goes. That's on the affordable housing front. On the homeless side, I decided to get involved with a company called Life Moves that provides about 1,600 beds here in the Silicon Valley area for homeless people. And we have 3 projects that I've funded along with the state of California, what they call home key money. And normally when you have money from the state of California, there's always a gap, somewhere around $5 million a project. So I've supported 3 projects, one right here in Redwood City, no less than a mile away. You can go over there and visit it. It's on Bloomquist. It's 260 units. We opened it about 4 or 5 months ago. It's fully occupied. People come in there right off the street. They have to be screened. We have medical doctors on site. We have dentists on site. We have counseling for the substance abuse. We have job training, everything happening right here, a mile away on Bloomquist. That's our first project, 260 units. We have another one in San Jose. I'll only give money to these projects if I don't have to pay for the land, if the city provides the land. In Redwood City, the county provided the land. San Jose, the city provided the land. In our project in Palo Alto, the city provided the land. So San Jose will be open in about 4 or 5 months. The units are modular, built in the factory, and they're all stacked now 3 levels high. They have elevators. They even have kitchens, for these folks. So we'll see. Palo Alto, it just broke ground about 3 months ago. And that's what we're doing on the homeless side. And I hope to do more. You know, this is really a major problem. Everybody talks about homelessness. And the only way to solve this is to get people off the street. And, you know, whether they're in a permanent supportive unit, which a lot of people say you need to have permanent housing, and I think you need both. You need to have temporary shelter to get them off the street while the permanent housing becomes available, which takes time. This takes time. You agree? Good. Okay.
Plus, to get them back to work, probably, as well. On top of that, John, I mean, if you want to, you know, keep these people out of the street, you have to try to find out the way they can get back to work,
Yes.
to labor market. Yeah.
We have time for very few questions. Anybody has questions? Get the microphone.
Thank you all three for being here. This was awesome. I'm 25. I'm a young guy. And the investments that all three of you are making into our communities, for the country, for Italy, here directly in the Bay Area, obviously your investments that you are making into us come with an expectation. And as a younger person who is going to at some point take over the reins of this future that you're setting up for us, what is your expectation for the future of the Italian American leaders and Italians here in the Bay Area and in the United States? What do you want from us? What do you want us to carry on for you guys when it's our turn?
I think we are going the right direction. The new generation should be following what exactly the current generation of Italian and Italian Americans are doing right now. They've already changed the direction the community was going. We have great example in the past, and the project I was talking to you about before, the Little Italy Honor Walk of San Francisco, will tell San Franciscans, Americans, other communities in San Francisco about what Italians have been doing in the past decades since the 19th century in San Francisco to make the local environment grow and the local community grow bigger. So we have great examples and models from the past, but the recent community of Italian American is doing great. So I expect the new generation of Italian Americans to go on giving back to our country. Your ancestors have left our country. We lost something with them as country because we lost people, men, women, resources, brains. Especially right now, we are talking about scientists and brain drain from Italy to Silicon Valley. We are proud of that because we want to contribute to the great thing Janet was talking about UC system. But still, we would like something to go back to Italy and bring something to our economy, to our social welfare. And I think the new generation can go on to do what the current generation of Italian Americans are doing, giving back to Italy on every field.
My name is Sara Bianchi Chamberlain, and I'm a teacher in Marin County, and I actually teach ELS students and heritage speakers Spanish, and I'm very interested in what you were saying about creating more opportunities for these kids. I have a bridge class now that are basically kids that don't even speak English, and so they try to kind of be transitioning towards a better environment for them and trying to reinforce their language and such. I was wondering, what do you envision for these kids that are transitioning? Because now they are basically thrown in the mainstream right away, and they don't have enough time to kind of learn. So I was wondering, what is your vision for that? And the second thing I'd like to ask to Ms. Napolitano is that, like, I speak different languages and I'm credentialed in Italian, English, and Spanish. Italian is not enough in the Bay Area. I would like to do something in the schools because for Spanish-speaking kids, for example, Italian is a hope. and nobody is thinking about really working on our language. We are really cool for kids, and they really look at us for fashion. They look at us as examples of sportsmanship. They look at us as what we can bring as values. They really like me teaching them, even if I'm not like a native speaker overall, because they kind of feel the empathy and the fact that we are Latinos in that. So like, I really to do something in the Bay Area and bring Italian back. Like the Chinese are screaming, the Japanese are screaming. Where are the Italians screaming? Can we scream? I am back.
I think Italians are famous for their ability to scream.
I do something, but I'm not sure. We need someone that speaks with someone else, and we all teachers are realizing that I'm finished. I'm ending up by teaching Spanish because I can't survive teaching Italian. It's like a half-time job.
I'll let John answer the question about bridging for non-native English speakers, and then I'll address the Italian.
Thank you.
Well, basically, I would suggest you go on the internet and go look up SEAL, S-E-A-L. We have 32 people on staff in Oakland. They travel around the state. They can establish this program in your school. And unfortunately, it's either for Spanish speakers or for, I think even now we have Vietnamese in some of the schools, because that is the population in our schools. As I said earlier, 50% of the kids in the California school system are first-generation Spanish speakers. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of Italians standing in line.
The thing is that the Spanish speakers can actually learn Italian because the vocabulary is the same. So the hope you give them is also to learn a second language that would come up in their transcripts as a great second language instead of teaching them another language. They need a second language, and Italian is the best that they can get in no time because they already have that vocabulary.
Well, you're right, you're right.
Do we have another question?
Well, you asked about what we can do to increase the teaching of Italian. And I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, one idea would be to start an Italian language charter school and really focus on that. A second would be to advocate with your school board for your school district that they begin to offer Italian and offer it even in the pre-high school grades. I think it's not an easy sell, I have to say. Why? Spanish is an easy sell because we have so many native Spanish speakers. Chinese is an easy sell because we have a lot of Chinese speakers. And, you know, there are certain advantages that are associated with great numbers. So, if we don't have the greatest numbers, like as in Spanish speakers or Chinese speakers, then we have to make some noise about it. And as I said earlier, I think we're good.
There's a solution, Sarah, to change the Italian law on Italian citizenship by making a new requirement, the Italian language as a new requirement, which hasn't been done so far, because in our vision, which is correct probably, if you have Italian ancestors, you don't need to show that you have some skills in Italian language. Second solution is we have an Italian school in San Francisco, starting from kindergarten, going up to 8, I think it's the 8th grade in the American system, so scuola media. And well, if we could back them to go further with the high school, we would have a full course of Italian language starting from kids, newborn, to the college. So yeah, that's enough.
Okay, last question.
Mi dai il microfono o lo faccio?
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Sebastiano Tevarotto. I've been here in California for 25 years, and I'm 26-year-old. And I want to touch on 2 points. One is education, because I graduated from the University of Padova, but I was lucky to win a scholarship, so I spent a full year at UCLA. And so I had a chance to see both systems, right? Aside from the cost, one important thing that, in my opinion, definitely created a difference in my life, the touch points of the industry with the academia here is pervasive, systematic, no-brainer, right? So when I was at UCLA, job fairs, I met tens of companies. HP spot me, make a long story short, after college, I went back to Italy in 1 year, they called me back, and I had a job, right? I came here for a summer job. So these are important things. Now, interestingly enough, I have 2 boys, by the way, both in Arizona State for whatever reason, and they're enjoying, but that's and I'm trying, well, they speak Italian, right? And I'm trying to get them closer to Italy, and finding a summer job in Italy, incredibly difficult. Right now, I find it because I have friends, but other people that don't have the connections will not be able to find it. So this is very important because the second generation, I'm thinking the daughters and the sons of my boys, they will not speak Italian, most likely, right? They'll marry an American, they will not speak Italian. So it's very important that we give opportunities for the second and third generation Italian Americans to go back, to touch back with the country. That's how you develop the love, that's how you develop the culture, that's how you see the different values that we have that are powerful, both obviously socially as well as in business. And so my thing is that one request is, why don't we as a consulate find 10 universities that are offering a scholarship or 10 companies that are offering a summer job to Italo-Americans or Italian descendants that can get there. So to get this thing going. Small thing, just a drop, right? That drop after a drop, that's what John did, right? Drop after a drop after a drop, it creates a river, right?
So what we are working on, apart from what was mentioned in the Italian school in San Francisco, is we have a part of an education scientific attaché. We have an education attaché at the consulate, which is dealing exactly with the Italian language promotion in California and in the consular jurisdiction, which goes from Utah to Honolulu to Hawaii. So it's a big. The thing the education attaché does with me, is to go district by district, the district or school district authorities, and to check it out which schools have Italian language. We have a map of Italian language courses both in public schools and in private schools. So, for example, one of the magnet schools of San Francisco, Lowell, has a fantastic core class of Italian language, as much as others, and even outside San Francisco, Sacramento, Burlingame, and so on. So we're doing that. So we're working on that. What we are doing is to persuade schools, public schools and private, to open new Italian courses, as Sarah was saying. We obviously, it's never enough, but we're working on that with our education attaché. We just had a meeting last week at the consulate with all the teachers of Italian language of all the schools of the surroundings area of San Francisco to get them together and think of what kind of policies or methods we can add on top of what we've done so far to make these courses, these classes available in other schools. So we are doing that. The thing you mentioned is a very interesting project we might take. It's very interesting.
You can usually do junior year abroad. There are many Italian universities that collaborate, University of California, to offer that. So that's a very good opportunity for young people in the junior year to be immersed in Italy, in an Italian university for 1 semester.
Thank you, everybody. So doors close at 9. Let's give a warm round of applause.
One last moment. So, I can keep a straight face in it. My name is Claire Bottaraco. I was a friend of Jeff's. I always think I was an old friend of Jeff's, and then I meet somebody who's known him for way longer. So I wrote a toast for him for his birthday, and I love to kind of share it, and I think you will all recognize our dear friend. And hopefully I can just get through it. Okay. So, Signore Carpaccio. I did this in Genoa. And by the way, my Italian's okay, but it's not great. Signore Genova, my brother from another mother, where shall I start? I have known you quite a while, But fear not, this toast will be from the heart. We met in San Francisco, where you knew every paisano. Dr. Vari said you were a great attorney and friend, a top Italiano. We share a joie de vivre and a love of bringing people together. From NIAF to World Cup watching parties, we gather every Italophile for worse or for better. You have had an amazing career in life as an attorney, Sviak founder, father, and consigliere. It has been impressive to watch the ride, and your success makes us all merry. Allora, un po' in italiano, perché devo raccontare qualche storia. Da San Francisco, Sonoma e DC, ho un sacco di memorie. C'era il concerto di Pino Daniele, e poi c'è il volo privato con Aragosta. Per 2019 possiamo fare un'altra volta? Solo un proposito. It would not be a proper toast without a toast to your loved ones, Patty, Mark, and Evelina. It has been amazing to get to know them all, even if Mama is a little birichina. And what about all the other amazing people I've met through you, Tempesta, Toschi, Armeninos, and even wonderful government officials who I wish would run in 2020, just to name a few. Everybody. Almost done. Just see one moment. Would have been great if I had this memorized, right? I can't thank you enough for your friendship over all these years. You are like family, and I could go on, but I'm trying to avoid the tears. So we raise a glass to you with Prosecco, Vino, a Moscato. Our dear friend Jeff Capaccio, buon compleanno, our favorite avocado.